Hello and greetings. In this video we're going to learn about Twinmotion software step by step and then go through it completely. Alright, Twinmotion software is a real-time software which is used for coordinates, renderings, and different presentations, and especially in the projects which are based on BIM. Okay, considering this software user-friendly, you can easily connect to it. And it is also coordinated to most of 3D softwares. And you also can render any different models from different apps and then use it in the software. And there are also different plugins which you can use and engage, so you could use them in this software. For example, Revit to Twinmotion as an example. Well, Twinmotion has a lot of advantages with it. For example, one of these advantages is high quality renderings. For example, you can have a very high quality renderings from projects which are picture or videos. The second thing that I want to mention is the cloud space in Twinmotion. When you make a project in Twinmotion software, which they are usually very heavy projects, for example, there are a few gigabytes, and for example, you need a proper hardware for it, and you want to share this project with your supervisors so you could observe it, what this cloud space does, it allows you to share a link in that cloud space, and your supervisor can easily use that link to observe your projects. So there is this VR topic here. Well, in Twinmotion software, you guys can easily and automatically move in that VR situation in Twinmotion software after you've done your projects. The only thing you need is a VR headset which you can connect it to your PC or your laptop. Next condition is the direct connection to the Unreal. In the newest versions, in the recent years, It company has developed a plugin which you can make a connection bridge between Unreal and Twinmotion projects. What that means is that when you have a very heavy project and you want to save your time, you can easily continue it with your Twinmotion software. But in that space, if you wanted to make your projects more professional and more interactive, you can use Brick to Unreal. With that plugin, you can transfer your file to Unreal and work more professionally on your project. And there are also other different advantages. These features that we mentioned, there are the indicator features of this software. Although this software has more practical features too, which with this video you can use these features for your projects. In order to download and install this software, you must download Epic Game Launcher from Epic Game website. Also, you can search it from the internet. As you can see, you can search it right here, launcher. And as you can see the link here, well, you can click on it and then you sign in and download this version of it. When you downloaded this version, you can install it and you can have this shortcut in your desktop. And when you double click on it, you will be seeing this window. There are different sections here. The news section is about the latest news. And as you can see that these news are mostly related to Unreal. And in this section, sample section, you can have access to different samples, which again, they are mostly related to Unreal. And there is marketplace here. You can click on it here. And in this section here, different users can share their projects for free, or even they can sell those projects. And there's this library section here which you can download the newest plugin and different versions of Unreal. And there is Twinmotion here, which in this section you can insert the proper version of it. And after the installation you can launch in this section, or also you can double click on its shortcut. The difference in these versions, as you can see, educational, marketplace, and trial. First of all, Twinmotion software from 2019 was bought by Epic Game Company, and it is considered to be its product. In that period of time, meaning 2019, Epic Game announced that if you install this version, it'll be free for lifetime, and it is still free. And the people who installed that version, they have the access to different updated version of it since 2019. And if you didn't install that version, you can use this version. And the differences are in this pricing section right here. Let's just check this here. Alright, in this section here, alright, these versions here and their differences: free trial, educational, and commercial. In this trial version, it has some limitations such as the resolution, and also you cannot do commercial projects with it. And in educational version, you have all the abilities except for the commercial projects. And in the commercial version, you have all the abilities because you have paid for the license. So we will be using this license here. So in order for the educational courses, or you can pay for the project and have that license. Okay, so you can use Twinmotion like this. So immediately when you installed Twinmotion software, you can run the project by clicking on this launch section here. And we should mention that when we scroll down, we can see the plugin sections here. You can click on download the plugins and you will be visiting this screen here. And here, for more practical softwares, as you can see, different plugins for different softwares such as Rhino, SketchUp, like SolidWorks, like Vectorworks, Datasmith, Twinmotion content for Unreal Engine, and this one right here. And considering your own needs, you can download and install each of one of them. Okay, we scroll up and we download the proper plugin and pay attention for Revit. There is this version 2023.1. There is a cooperation contract. Epic Game Company and Autodesk have signed that contract for Twinmotion, and all the Revit users which purchase the original version of Revit, they will have the access to their own Autodesk account freely and automatically. So when you have Revit software installed, you will have access to that version. And they don't have to install that plugin. They can come to this section, this part, view, and it is built in automatically in this Twinmotion section here. And as you can see, you have direct connection to Revit files and Twinmotion files in this section here. And these tools are extraordinary, and we will catch up to them later. You are going to see their spectacular features. So you are going to have this feature from Revit. Okay, let's just close this one here and let's launch the project from Twinmotion section here, as you can see. Or you can double click on the shortcut and it is performed as soon as we click on it. In the newest versions of Twinmotion, you are going to be confronted with this home screen. As you can see, new scene here and open scene here. This new scene is used for create a new project, and with this open scene you can open up the project that you have been working on. And there are also a few templates here provided for the user. If these templates are downloaded, you can easily click on open option here, but if not, you can download it by clicking on this option here. And if you have noticed here, this part, there are all templates here. And if you, for example, click on architectures, you can have access to architectural environments. And this here, product, usually is used to present a certain product. And this is used for marketing and advertisement. Just like you can see, different templates here. And there is this option here, as you can see, show on startup. You can turn it off if you didn't want to see this window every time. And if you turn it off, you're going to be confronted with the home screen directly. So we close this one right here. So in order to open up this window here, you have to come to this file section and then show home panel. And if we click on it, you can see this window again. As you can see, you can have the access to it again, and you can turn that click on. Alright, so for now we turn this click off because we don't want to see that window again. So we come here, we close this tab. Okay, if we needed it, we can use this file section as we taught you. So when you open a new project, you're going to be confronted with this raw studio environment here. So in order to get to know this project better, we come to this file section, just like you can see from this section. As you can see, these demo scenes, there are a few prepared projects. I click on the second one, and for now we don't want to save this scene here. Okay, we click on this and we have to wait a few seconds. Right, it's loading up the project, and then we're going to be using our different tools. As soon as you open up a project like this in Twinmotion, you will be seeing two panels on each side. Okay, this left part is the library section, and as you can see, it is a bit different with the previous versions of it. And here's the state section that we are going to discuss it later. And on the right panel, there's the scene section. Okay, there are different assets here provided for us. There are different hierarchies and different features to set up. And here's the properties section. As you can see, this ambience section too. You can have them. As you can see, there are camera options here, the render options here, and this FX. And later on we are going to discuss all these different features together. There is this XYZ section here that you can set the coordinates of every single assets in your project. Even this camera here, you can change all of these angles and different features of it. Just like this, and this is extraordinary. And there is this section here, view sets. And there are view sets here that you can have access to view sets that you create, and then we're gonna discuss them all. Okay, this above and the below of this screen, you have some tools too. These tools up here, they are editing tools, and these tools down here are for exporting and importing. Okay, in case of learning a software, there are some rules and different methods, and if you learn them, it's going to be so much easier to work with the software. Okay, for example, we search the AutoCAD 2007 in Google right here, and I want to show you this screen. As you can see, they're a bit different in different versions, but the structures are the same. The tools in the left section of the screen were drawing tools, and the tools in the right part of the screen were editing tools. I mean, in this section you create your project, and in that section you edit them. And well, usually in most of softwares there are the same rules. For example, if you are working with a software like Lumion, we have some tools in the left part of the screen, and there are some tools provided in the right part of the screen. And if you have noticed this, the left section is for building. For example, you create a project, you give assets to it, and you do the materialization. And in the right section, you can do the rendering and, for example, the animation exporting. And what that means is that in the left part we import things, and in the right part we export things. And it's the same thing for Twinmotion too. And if you can add things from the left part of the screen. And in the right part of the screen we somehow have the editing tools. And when you take a look down here, you can see a very organized diagram here. And it is saying, firstly, you must import your file, and then give material to it, then populate your panel, and next set your video or your picture, and finally export your file. And as you can see, there is a very organized and a smart diagram provided for you. And also the tools above the screen, there are also editing tools. These tools give you the ability to work inside of your project in Twinmotion. And for example, in this section we have path tracing. In this section you can do things about path tracing. We turn it off for now. And with these tools here, you can click on different materials and take the materials, then edit them, do whatever you want. And there are other tools here that we are going to discuss them later. And also there are different tools like move, rotate, and things like that. And there are also two tools here. These tools provide a full screen view for us. You can see what happens when we turn it on and when we turn it off. And there is also this eye section here. There are also features here that we are going to discuss them later. There is this option here which is navigation option, and when you click on it you are going to be exposed to this specific section here. As you can see, there are practical tools here for your guidance. As you can observe these tools up here, this left click here means orbiting. The right click, it means look around. Left click orbits the whole scene, something like this. And the right click, it is something like you are turning around your head as a character, something like this. But this one is spinning around the whole scene. And if you hold the mouse roller, you can do the panning. And if you roll it, you can zoom in and then zoom out, something like this. Okay. There are these keys here, A, W, S, and D. W is used to move forward, and S is used to move backward, A to move left, and D to move right. Just wait a second. Okay, Q and E. Okay, Q is used to move up and E is used to move down. Something like this. Okay, you can see that. And keys 1 to 6 are the keys for speed. Okay, they are used for the speed of the movement. 1 is the slowest and 6 is the fastest for your project. Okay, this 1 to 6 belongs to this structure here. You click on this eye here and this speed section, and you can see the different numbers here. This inspect means 1, handle speed is second one, walk speed is 3, and the cycle and drive speed, or the last one, fly speed. Okay, if I press key number 1 on the keyboard, and as you can see, we are moving very slowly, something like you can notice in big projects. Now we press key number 2, it's a bit faster. Okay, let's just change the angle of camera and let's go up a bit. Alright. Okay, now we press key number 3, and when we press W, you can see it is moving faster. Now we press key number 4 on the keyboard, and as you can see, when we press W, it is faster than the previous one. Now number 5, as you can see, it is also faster. Now number 6, and it is the fastest one. So as you can see, the project is here. Now considering to your proper speed, you can click on the keys on the keyboard. And now if you selected any object in your environment, then type F, it's going to be zoomed in. Or in fact, you have zoom selected. As you can see, something like this. You see, when you select something, just press F. And as you can see, you have them zoom selected. So these tools, they're going to provide these features for us. Okay, we come to the speed section, we choose walk for now. Then we're going to continue our project with this speed. And in this section, the setting, and you can click on this option here, navigate keyboard. You can use keyboard or pads or touch for your PC or your laptop. As you can see, there are different screens, and it gives us a very brief guideline for each of them. So you can see you can move down or look around, or maybe in pad you can see the structures of different buttons and keys. Okay, we set it on keyboard. Okay, and in the setting, this part here, navigation presets similar to. Alright, you can set your movements similar to each one of these softwares here. For example, a software like Revit might be the main software for your projects. And maybe the keys that you work with are used a lot in that software. For example, the shift and other keys and etc. Right here you can set those presets similar to each one of these softwares. For example, you can set it to be similar to Revit, maybe similar to Blender or SketchUp, or similar to 3D Max, maybe Rhino and every proper software, or maybe similar to Unreal here. As you can see, this structure becomes similar to Unreal. Or right now we set it on Revit. You see, that's how it's different. So you can set it on whatever you like. As you can see, the guidelines are a bit different here. You see, we are setting it on different softwares. Okay, right now we set it on this Twinmotion editor. And here, if we don't want to see that panel above, we can click on this hide navigation panel here. And if you wanted to put the panel back, you just have to come to this section and click on this navigation here, and we can put it back. You see, show navigation, and there is this cloud section here. Okay, with this option here, we can directly share our project into the cloud environment. Of course, we have the same option here in this section. But for now, we use this part because it's faster. Okay, right here in this section. Okay, in order to do this, you have to have an account. For now, I close this and I come to this section and I hide this panel right here. As you can observe these tools up here, this left click here means orbiting. The right click, it means look around. Left click orbits the whole scene, something like this. And the right click, it is something like you are turning around your head as a character, something like this. But this one is spinning around the whole scene. And if you hold the mouse roller, you can do the panning. And if you roll it, you can zoom in and then zoom out, something like this. Okay, there are these keys here, A, W, S, and D. W is used to move forward, and S is used to move backward, A to move left, and D to move right. Just wait a second. Okay, Q and E. Okay, Q is used to move up and E is used to move down, something like this. Okay, you can see that. And keys 1 to 6 are the keys for speed. Okay, they are used for the speed of the movement. 1 is the slowest and 6 is the fastest for your project. Okay, this 1 to 6 belongs to this structure here. You click on this eye here and this speed section, and you can see the different numbers here. This inspect means 1, handle speed is second one, walk speed is 3, and the cycle and drive speed, or the last one, fly speed. Okay, if I press key number 1 on the keyboard, and as you can see, we are moving very slowly, something like you can notice in big projects. Now we press key number 2, it's a bit faster. Okay, let's just change the angle of camera and let's go up a bit. Alright. Okay, now we press key number 3, and when we press W, you can see it is moving faster. Now we press key number 4 on the keyboard, and as you can see, when we press W, it is faster than the previous one. Now number 5, as you can see, it is also faster. Now number 6, and it is the fastest one. So as you can see, the project is here. Now, considering to your proper speed, you can click on the keys on the keyboard. And now if you selected any object in your environment, then type F, it's going to be zoomed in. Or in fact, you have zoom selected. As you can see, something like this. You see, when you select something, just press F. As you can see, you have them zoom selected. So these tools, they're going to provide these features for us. Okay, we come to the speed section, we choose walk for now. Then we're going to continue our project with this speed. And in this section, the setting, and you can click on this option here, navigate keyboard. You can use keyboard or pad or touch for your PC or your laptop. As you can see, there are different screens, and it gives us a very brief guideline for each of them. So you can see you can move down or look around, or maybe in pad you can see the structures of different buttons and keys. Okay, we set it on keyboard. Okay, and in the setting, this part here, navigation presets similar to. Alright, you can set your movements similar to each one of these softwares here. For example, a software like Revit might be the main software for your projects. And maybe the keys that you work with are used a lot in that software. For example, the shift and other keys, and etc. Right here you can set those presets similar to each one of these softwares. For example, you can set it to be similar to Revit, maybe similar to Blender or SketchUp, or similar to 3D Max, maybe Rhino and every proper software, or maybe similar to Unreal here. As you can see, this structure becomes similar to Unreal. Or right now we set it on Revit. You see, that's how it's different. So you can set it on whatever you like. As you can see, the guidelines are a bit different here. You see, we are setting it on different softwares. Okay, right now we set it on this Twinmotion editor. And here, if we don't want to see that panel above, we can click on this hide navigation panel here. And if you wanted to put the panel back, you just have to come to this section and click on this navigation here, and we can put it back. You see, show navigation, and there is this cloud section here. Okay, with this option here, we can directly share our project into the cloud environment. Of course, we have the same option here in this section. But for now, we use this part because it's faster. Okay, right here in this section. Okay, in order to do this, you have to have an account. For now, I close this and I come to this section and I hide this panel right here. Another point that we want to mention is that if you want to have access to other shortcuts in the software, if you choose this section, help section, and in shortcut section, you will see there is this PDF based on the language that you select. Here you select the wanted language, and there's going to be a PDF file here, and all the shortcuts in Twinmotion software are going to be available here. Well, Twinmotion software is also presented for Mac system. As you can see, there are also shortcuts for Mac and also Windows. And you can see that the move forward key is W for Mac and also W for Windows. And as you can see, some of them might be different, but some of them are the same. That's how these things are done. Okay. For example, in this section, you can see movement situations here. As you can see, this one is the symbol for Shift key, and what this means is the mouse roller. Right now it says if you hold the Shift button and then roll the mouse roller, you can have this rotation in higher scale of speed. But if you hold Alt button, then you will see it is moving slowly. As you can see, these shortcuts will be extremely helpful. Or for example, this tool section, translate is move. As you can see, there's numbers here, and this next transform section is with this arrow here. That means if you selected this move button here, you can have access to it by clicking on that arrow button. And this symbol here is the symbol of tab button. If you just take a look at it, you will understand this. And when we click on it, as you can see, it is transforming to next option. You see, that's so much faster. And as you can see, when we click on 7, 8, 9, they are also changing. So by using these shortcut keys, you can make working in this environment so much easier. But I personally suggest you that for working in any other software, work with the tool itself so you could understand the structures better and deeply. When you understood those structures perfectly and you became a professional, you can use those shortcut keys to make your project faster. So for now, we try to refuse to work with the shortcut keys. We work with these tools here so we could have a better understanding of the environment of the software. Okay, so we will start discussing these translate tools here. Okay, when you click on an object here, you can use different translate tools based on what have you selected up here. If it is move, you can easily move the objects around the environment, and you can change the coordinates of the objects to X, Y, and Z axis. And just let's take a look at here. We have this X, Y, Z transfer panel, and as you can see, we can change the coordinates with these options here. And if you select this middle section here, and when you start moving it, it is moving in all directions, and considering that these objects are face-based, they will automatically sit on any surface. Or even in this section, you can type the coordinates, for example, like now 100 centimeters, and it goes up. And for example, right now we can type -100 and it goes down. Or even if we click on this section here, we can change the angle here. What that means, in moving tools, you also have rotation tools, and you also can move it manually. And also in this section, you can set a number for the coordinates. Just simply type in the proper number. You can see 0, 65 centimeters now. Or maybe in another position, something like this. So as you can see, we have this position section here, which you can type different coordinates inside it. Okay, the next tool here is this rotate tool. And as you can see, when we click on it, this gizmo will change. You also have moving ability right now too. As you can see, we can, well, change different directions and, you know, set the object on different positions here, or we can come to this section again and change these numbers here, like 0, 0, and 135. As you can see, 45 is also different, and 90. As you can see, you can rotate it in every kind of direction that you like. Right, if we click on this middle section here, we can move it and set it on a flat surface. And scale is used for making objects bigger and smaller. As you can see, we are changing these numbers here and like putting them in 100, 100, and 100. You can see these scales are different now. Or for example, right now 1, 1, 1. And as you can see, you can change these numbers here and set it on different size. Okay, something like this. Every type of number that you like, you can see you can set it on different sizes. Alright, we set it on this number, and with Ctrl Z keys you can undo your changes. Something like this, as you can see. Alright. Okay, so with these tools here, you can rotate it, move it, and scale them. Okay, in this section, this one we're gonna talk about it later because these options here, they are a bit more relevant to these things that we talked about. In this section, we have two practical tools here, and they're extremely important. Okay, as you can see, with this option here, world axis, toggle local, in this section, you can switch between local axis and world axis. For example, if we click on it, you can see the position of coordinates and axis is different. Okay, we come to this section here, this part. Okay, we come to this section, and as you can see right now, and then we click on F button so we could zoom in, and as you can see right now, these axes here, they are aligned in local directions. What does that mean? If we click on this local axis, we can move it in its own direction, but right now if we click on the world axis, we can move it in any type of direction. That's, let's put it simply. So with these options, you can switch between local and world axis. And this section here, reset pivots and center pivots. By clicking on these tools here, you can change the placement of your pivots. And for example, put it in here. And let's deactivate it. As you can see, this asset here is changed by this pivot. You can see you can move, rotate, and scale it in here. And if you wanted to bring it back, you click on center pivot. And if you click on reset, you can bring it back to the presets. So by using these tools up here, we can do basic editing process by moving, rotating, and scaling, and take control of our objects. In this part of the screen, we have the library section. And by clicking on this section, we can have access to the Twinmotion software library. As you can see, there are different categories for this software: materials, vegetation, objects, and lights. And we are going to discuss them one by one in detail, but for now, we just want to talk about the objects and the assets in the environment. Something like this vegetation. Okay, this file here, new scene here. And do you want to save? No. And as you can see, we have this environment prepared for us. As you can see in this section, you can click and delete the objects inside of that environment. As you can see, you can click on them one by one and delete them, and then you have this empty landscape. And also this one here, let's just delete that. And also this other one, let's delete that too. Okay. And now we have this scene graph here, which we can add our objects to this label plus this ambience, which is the general editing of this scene. Let's click on this one. Okay, let's just undo some of our changes so we could have that basic structure, the base of landscape. Okay, from this section, this landscape section, if we click on it, we have some surfaces flat and rocky grasslands. If we choose flat and drag it into the scene, now we have a scene something like this, as you can clearly observe it. And if we drag this one, you can see that the landscape is a bit rocky and it's not flat. Let's take a look around. All right, you can choose whatever you like and drag them into the scene. Okay, let's just go back. Okay, there's this section here, tree sections. And in this section, you can choose a particular tree, and then by clicking, add them into the scene. You see something like this. And in the placing process, you can change the direction and position of it too. And if you are choosing an object or an asset a lot, and if you want to make it practical, you can add them to your favorite library by clicking on this, Add to Library Favorites. If we click on it and then go to the library section again, and for example we come to this favorite section, you can see that we have that object in there. You see right now you can easily have the access to your favorite objects. And in the next section we have some palms and other trees. They're a bit smaller, and as you can see when we add it to the scene, we have them organized in our label in there, and they have different symbols. You can understand that they are in vegetation category. We come to the next section here, grass. We have different types of grasses. We can add them to our scene. We can observe different types of grasses. Let's go to the previous section, and here we have grasses with higher qualities and better standards. And let's zoom in with this F key, and let's go up right now. And since we want to move slowly, we put the speed handle on number 2. Okay, and we select this last one, not this one, the other one here, and we click on F, and as you can see, it's like this. Okay, let's just observe this object here. As you can see, it's this. So you have different types of grasses in this section. And in the object section, you can add different objects to your project. These objects are homes, city, and different options are available here in this section. For example, in home section, we have living room. And we also have different categories inside that too. Let's close this here so we can make this space bigger. Okay, right now we can make this space bigger, as you can see. As you can see, there are different objects available here, and we can choose them for our project. We can use any object that we like. The more important point here is that Twinmotion software is connected to a cloud database which you can download many objects from it. For example, as you can see, some of the objects here have this download symbols. That means you have to download them for your presets. You click on it and you see it's downloading. After it's downloaded, you can easily use them for your project. We have to wait a few seconds so we could download this object here. That means you can have access to millions of objects. Alright, so you just have to download it once and it is added to your library section, but you can also change the direction of it. We'll teach that later. And we go back, and as you can see, there are different categories and different folders in your library. You can use them, just check them. They can all be used for your projects. There are different objects, and all you have to do is just search among them. Or also this kitchen section here, as you can see. As you can see, there are prepared objects. You just have to look through them. And we have the city section here. As it is obvious, these objects are relevant to urban environment. You can choose among them. As you can see, you can set them in different urban environments, like in the streets or other places which you like. You see there are different urban elements here, like this fountain. And there's this other section here, this construction section, which you want to show the process of constructing, like in Revit, you also can use this library too. And Twinmotion software has VDC ability, it means virtual constructor, and you can use these materials here for your constructor project. As you can see, they are all available here. Let's just discuss a point here. Some of these objects are a set of different objects, are a collection of objects. As you can see, when we place it, there are more than one object. As you can see, there are different objects and assets inside of one object. And if you double click on each of these objects, you can separate them from the original collection. You can see we select this one and we move it and we rotate it. As you can see, this way. Or I may want to choose this one and then place it on the ladder like this. Let's just go up. All right, we go up by the Q key and then we rotate it. You see here we place it up here. All these collections here have the same ability, and you can use this technique to separate them. This is going to be quite helpful for you. Let's just speed up the process and we set it on walk. Alright, let's go back to the previous section. Okay, let's get back to the city section. Alright, and as you can see, there are different objects which you can choose and set it for your project. The next section is primitives. We click on it, and as you can see, we are exposed to this space. In Twinmotion software, from these objects in primitive section, you can do some of the basic modelings for objects. For example, you have something like a ground here. If you deleted your ground, you can use this model, or else I can use this box here, and then I select it with this scale tool. Or we can come to this section also and change the size and the number of the sizes, of course, in this section. As you can see, like set it on 3 meters. As you can see, for example, you can set some of these objects manually. Something like this, all right? Of course, here is centimeter, not millimeter. All right, let's set it in this way, and I can choose rotate. Okay, like this. And then we hold Control Z. And if you hold Shift and then use tools like rotate and move, you can make a copy out of your object while simultaneously you're moving it. Something like this. An instance means something exactly like that. And you see, when we choose instance, we have the same changes in the other objects too. You see, they are both the same in the materials and the structures. What that means is that if we go to this material section and change the color of this object, we can see both of these walls right now have a different color. But if we hold Shift and we make a copy out of it, and when we click on this pick material and we change the color of it, you can see that the colors are not the same. So this is the difference between instance and copy. And you can do this, but let's just delete these objects. And this one too. Let's select this one and move. And then we hold Shift and we make another object out of it. We can set it on instance and copy, and we set the numbers, for example 4, and we set the space on 2 meters, and as we can see, it is replicating. So I hold shift and I can spin it and copy the number 1, and the angle is 90 degrees. And we can put it somewhere like here. For example, we can make a space like a room. So in case of making a basic model, you can use this section, primitive section. And this other section here is decal. Well, this section places an image on a particular surface and it makes that image part of that element. For example, a wall being old, a wall being destroyed, and items like these things. So instead of making a model and make your projects heavier, you can easily use a picture or an image. Okay, you can select one of these things and place it on a particular surface. Okay, and by using the G key on the keyboard, a place like here, you can make the icon of an image more colorful or less colorful. And I mean the symbol of that object. Even if you put some lighting, is going to be the same. It means if you add a light to your project, it has a symbol, it has an icon. By using the G key, you can hide them or show them. Okay, I select this one right now and we click on F. Okay, we zoom in. Okay, and in this section, as you can see, you can do the editing of the image. Alright, we talk about the asset first and we discuss the details later. So we continue doing this. The next part is the lights. Excuse me for that. In this section, it's particles. In this section, you can set different types of fires, steam, and smoke, and simulate them in your projects. Something like this. Take a look at it. As you can see, it has a very high quality graphical standards. Particles can do that for you. Okay, let's click on this one and delete this one too, and this one. And you can observe this, and the fire that you place is extremely real. And let's just zoom in, and when we move our fire, you can see it is not moving artificially. And on the background of this fire, you can see that the fire is somehow affecting the vision. And when you see the reflection of those images, it's one of the bugs in the software. That's not usually the thing. And in the upcoming versions, of course, they might fix these bugs, and they will fix these bugs, and they will make it better. The next part is the water section. As you can see, you can place a water cube, like a box, inside that project. And we choose the scale and we make it like this. Then by moving it, we bring it down. Or we can place it like a cylinder, water cylinder. And in the next section, we have the sound parts. You can add sounds to your project, like this one, people sound, and some sounds which exist in the nature, and of course, urban sounds. You can choose among these sounds for your project. For example, I select this one and click here, and in this part we can enable it and turn it on and off. And later on, we're going to discuss about these properties here. When you choose a sound for your project, these sounds will be played. And they might be a bit annoying in the project making process, so you can come to this edit section in this section preferences or Control P, and in this window appearance, and you can turn off and turn on the sound section. So from these sections you can edit things about those sounds. Well, this window has a lot of options and we will discuss all of them later. We click on OK for now. So in this section we have the access to different sounds. We come to Object section again, and the next section is Doors, which they have interesting features. There are prepared doors and you can place them in your project. If you have worked with Unreal software, there is a blueprint which you can code for the doors. For example, we set this on walk here, and in a walking position, let's put the speed on that, and when we get close to the door, as you can see near this area, the door gets opened, and when we move away from it, the door gets closed. And as you can see, we have some preset doors here, and there are different settings and options here. We will discuss them later. Here we can change the type of the door. We can also change the handle, and here we can change the frames and different features of it. Something like this, and this is extraordinary. Let's just check it again. You see that? Okay. And this is the library for the object sections, and that's how we can put some objects in that environment. Let's just go back, or we open up this sample file, and in the next section we are going to discuss the lighting and its details and its different items. In the lighting section, this light part, for example, we get to this environment, and here you can have access to all types of lights here to this section. These lights are extremely extraordinary, and for example, by clicking on them you can add them to your environment, like this one, spotlight, or lights here like neon light. For example, we place this one here, and whatever you choose, there is this property section here. We will discuss it later, and as you can see, we have this light section in this part, and this section is HDRI section. You can have access to different HDRI environments, something like this. For example, a cloudy sky. You just need to download them, or if you don't want to, there are some presets here downloaded for you. Let's go to the previous section right now. For example, a clear sky right now, and we drag this to our scene. As you can see, the lighting and the atmosphere is based on the item that we chose. Okay, and whatever you need, you download them. For example, we download this one here, and we wait for it to download fully, so we drag it to the scene. Okay, now it's complete, and as you can see, we drag it, and then we just have to wait to see and observe the new changes. And well, these are very professional and extraordinary features that you see in Twinmotion software. When you are using one of these HDRIs, this section here, time of the day, will be off. That means it doesn't allow you to use this section because you're using HDRI and you can control that environment specifically. We will discuss it later, but we can come here to this section and we can turn this off, this background HDRI section, so we could have this section, time of the day, again working for us. Okay, so we get back to the previous section right now, to the objects, and in this section, this mega scenes. In this environment, you have access to infinite assets, and you can have assets that are not originally from Unreal, and you can download them in this section. For example, we come to this section, stones, and then we click on it, and then we will wait for it to load up. Okay. Oh, because this place is wooden, we come to this section, wood section. For example, this one. These are extremely practical, and considering if the software put it in a local storage, it will make the software extremely heavy, so they put it in a online storage, and you can choose each one of them and add it to your project like this. And you also can change the size of it so they are able to be controlled. We will discuss it later as we told it before. So let's go back. For example, this section, 3D assets in nature section. As you can see, we have a variety of different assets in this section, which they're online. You can download them and use them in your project. And there are no limits for it, and they're completely free. Alright, I select it, and then we just click in a spot in the environment. Well, the item is small, but we can choose this option here, scale, and not this one, and like this, we can make it a bit bigger. And then let's just move it and place it in here. And as you can see, it is extraordinary. It's extremely real and high quality. Okay, so we have access to a lot of assets in this section. And this part is also Sketchfab. And in this section, you also have access to a lot of assets from the Sketchfab company. They are also online and free. And when you're using Twinmotion software, it gives you the ability to use these assets from this company too. And this whole utilizing process for these assets depends on your environment and the situation of your project, and of course the way you design. And also in this section you have characters. Okay, let's just go up here, and as you can see, we can select each of these characters, then place them in our environment. These characters are completely animated though, and there are also different features for the characters in this section. We can change them. We will discuss these parameters later. We also can have our characters by the group. And as I mentioned it before, by double clicking on them, you can select them individually and change their features individually. As you can see, we can move them or even delete one of them. And there are different position human again in this section. And these characters, as you can see, they don't move and they're completely still. Simply, they're not animated. Let's just go to the previous section right now. We also have characters in different seasons. Also this construction section. You can use all of these characters in your project, and as you can see, there are various characters. And this section is the cutout section. The characters in this section are two-dimensional. These characters are used in very enormous projects which you don't want to look at the end of them, or you just want to fill that environment. You can use these characters. And you see they don't have that much of a detail, they're not animated. So we just use them to fill up our environment, our scene. And also in this section we have different animals which we can use for the environment. Okay, let's go to the previous section again, and then let's see what we have. We have tool section here. Well, you see this section needs kind of an explanation and we have to discuss it. So before we get to that, let's just check the other sections. So we have this vehicle section here. You can have access to different airplanes, cars, and all stuff like that. And as you can see, when we need it, we click it and we add it to that environment. When we add one of these vehicles to the environment, they all have some options and some features, like this one, this airplane. And as you can see, when we click on this airplane here, there are some parameters here and some features, which clearly there are more than the features of a car. So when you select on an object, you have to notice that property sections too. So as you can see, these features, they have different sort of setups for themselves, like you can change different parts of the airplane and change their color like this. Okay, as you can see, let's change this one. For example, in this section, you can turn on and turn off the lights, as you can see. And for example, if we go to this ambience section in the time of the day part, if we put the time of the day at night, we can see that the lights are on and off. Or even the car itself, we press F. In this section, we can change the color of the car or the material. So all of these features depend on our object itself. And we get back, we also have some vehicles for construction. And this user library section is a library that we add object to it ourselves. So we'll discuss it later. That part could be anything, and for this tool section, we have to discuss it later. And in the next part, we are going to be discussing the objects that we place in our environment and the fact they might be needing some editing process and their options. Okay, we create a new raw environment. And let's just keep these things here now. And for example, we place a certain tree asset like this. Well, assets like trees, they have a certain property like this. When you click on them, you will be seeing these options here. Okay, and in this section, as you can see, this is the age of tree, and you can clearly simulate the age of our certain assets. You see something like this. This part is kind of similar to a speed tree software. Well, this is a very professional software, and you can model high quality trees, very detailed trees in this software. For example, we turn this growth on, and as you can see, it is simulating the growing process. And you can use it, for example, you can export this file and then use it for your own project. Now let's close this here, and as you can see, Twinmotion has one of these assets prepared. You see something like this, and for this section here, the season section, we can determine the season of the tree in this section. For example, the leaves, the structure of the tree, and stuff like that. For example, we come up with the Q key, and then we come to this ambience section, and then we change the direction of the sun like this, and then we set it on different seasons. And in this part, we can determine if it includes the growth process or not. You see, when we want to export a file, we will discuss it later, we have some kind of a tool in effect sections that we can determine if these trees include growth or wind. We will discuss them later. For example, we place another tree here like this, and as you can see, when we change the season, the structure of the tree is different. And some of the trees, well, they have the same structure in different seasons as this one. But some of these trees, like this one here, if we put the option on auto, as you can see, when we're going to discuss it later in the exporting section, but when you, for example, come to this ambience section and then we come to this specific section, as you can see, considering to the season, it automatically changes the object. Something like this. Now we select this and we come to this section. For example, we put it in summer or different situations. And if we change the season here, as you can see, the structure of the tree is not different. So the good thing about auto section is that when we change something in the ambience section, the object will change too. We usually put it on auto, except for the times that you have a certain position in your mind. And in this part, you can set a set of color for your leaves, just like you can see that. And this color for itself is standard, but you can change the color for your own purpose too. Or even the trunk, the color of the trunk. Well, you can do something artistic for your project, something like that. You can just use different colors for it and use this help. Okay, we put it back into the previous position for the colors. This one too, and just notice that in the newest versions you can save the colors in this box. If you wanted to use them later, maybe you wanted to use more practical colors, you just store them and then you click on them. You don't have to create them again. There are almost 20 palettes for this, and you can use them in future projects. But for now, let's just delete them all. Alright, we just store this standard color so we could use it in future. The next part, like here, you can also place some small trees and bush, and this part also like grass you can place for your environment. Like some of them are detailed, and for example this rock here, you can place it on the environment, and something like this, we place it here. Okay, we select this one and we press F key, we go closer. So let's just close the library section and we come here to properties. And here, this one is size, it's not age, it's just scale in it. It's different from age, like this one. As you see, when we change the age section, the whole structure of the tree changes. But when we change the size, it's only the size, it's the same structure. And in the detail section, it's just, it is including the wind or not, that's it. You see the difference between the animations, alright? And this section we have the grass, and for the grass we have this scaling, the size, as you can see, and this part in detail, and we have this uniform option here and wild. If it's uniform, then all the changes will be applied in a very organized and disciplined way. But if you put it on wild, you can see the difference. Okay, as you can see, for now we put it in wild, and that's it. Okay, when we change this option here, dryness,
you can see somehow that these grasses become drier, as it is obvious. And when we put it in the lowest scale, you can see the grasses are green. They're in an environment which there's a lot of water, but when yellow and dry, it means like the environment doesn't have that much of water inside it, so you have to be careful about that. So that's how you control the dryness. And as it is obvious, these stripes and the stripes angles and other options, the size of it. And of course the last one is about the wind and its animation. Okay, let's go for the other one. We selected this one. Alright, then this is the detailed grass. And for this one, you also have the same options and the same features. They're not that much different. And for this rock here, we don't have any specific options. Also for this dry tree too. We open up the library again and we come to this section, for example, objects. And let's check some of these objects too. For example, we place this chair here and the TV next to it. Okay, then we come to this section, we change this here so it's right in front of us. Okay, and when we select this chair here, it doesn't have any specific options. And also when we select on the TV, there's no options either, but something else that you should know. With this tool provided here for you, you can change its material. You have this feature for these kind of objects too, and you can work on them. And for this part, the TV, you also can, for example, you can, well, add a sort of picture and image to it. Like we can change these materials and the colors too. We have this black screen right now. Like let's just say we can add a video clip to it or change the color. We're going to discuss it in the material section later on. For example, I can come to this section and open it and then add something like, we are looking for a proper video clip. Right now, we can add from this part, or we can do something else. We can come to this material section, and then we drag this video like this to the screen. Alright, this was it, and these are extraordinary features as you observed it. In the next part, we have lights from this section. Or if you come to the object section, here we have decals. We click on this and we open up one of the prepared projects in Twinmotion software. You will have access to that, and we'll discuss it in there. And if you wanted to save the project, save it in another drive so you could still have access to the original sample file. As you can see right now, we save it on our desktop by the name of test, and yeah, that's it. Now we know that if we apply any changes to our project, it's going to be on our test file and the original file is untouched. And just notice that when you click on anything, there's going to be a mark here in front of this test. That means it is not saved yet, and as soon as we click on Ctrl and S, that will go away because we saved the project. Okay, we click on F button, we go inside, and like this we come to this section, decals, and you can use one of these for your project based on what you need. And we come here for this wall, we select this crack effect on this wall. Although this crack is for concrete material, but we just want to explain it, that's it. Okay, we come to properties, and this is somehow a material. And in this section you can change the size of it. 1 is the standard, for example half of it. And the next point is that in this detail section I can change the length and the width of it, like this. And for now we set both of this on number 1. Okay. And the rest of it, they are related to the material. We're gonna be discussing them in the material because we learn it better. But let's just go through it and talk the basics of it. For example, this part, the reflection, well, as it is obvious, you can control the amount of reflection of it, and when you open this up, you can see that you have an image for this part. You can use another image for it, and you also can use the default version of it too. You see when we are changing the reflection what happens to this crack here. Alright, you can open this up and, for example, use another texture for this. We will probably use black and white textures. And for example, use this particular picture, and you see the reflection is based on that kind of picture. So when we click on this one, you can add another texture, or you can also use the default version of it. And for the next part, you can control the amount of this crack's bumps. And also for this section you can add another texture to it, or you can use the original texture. We'll discuss it later. Okay, and for this part, this glow part, as you can see, it is reflecting a sort of a light from itself, and it is fantastic for the artistic projects, so you can use it like this, as you can see. And you can also change the texture of the glowing in this part. Also the color of it, you can set it in here. And also in this part, the color temperature, you can make that color a little bit warmer or maybe colder. You can see when we put the color on white, it gets kind of blue and kind of red. Alright. Alright, and that's just for this part, and let's just lower this option too. Okay. And for this one, this particular option, as you can see, dusk to dawn, it is for, you know, the shift of the color is based on this particular option. So you can see how it changes. And for this metalness, it has that metallic feature of it. You can set it on that, which you can also change the texture of it. So, and you also have this opacity here. This section is for, you know, making those cracks more obvious. As you can see how it changes, like you want to be clear, or sometimes you want them to just fade away. That's for this. For example, we put it on this, and we maybe put this dirt on this corner, and as you can see, we can increase and decrease the amount of this opacity, and you can see the difference yourself. Something like this, alright? And for this part, we have details. Also, we have offset here. We click on that, and we can increase and decrease the amount of distance, and this is the sort order. And you use this part when you are using some decals right on each other. And as you can see, We don't want this crack to be placed on our air vent, so that's how we set the orders here, like 1, and you can see the difference right now. Or for example, for this color, when we put it here, like half of it is on the wall and half of it is on that panel, I can set this sort amount on 2, so it is more important than all of them. It's going to be on all of these decals. So simply, this is the order of their placement. And also when we click on it, we have options here too. Like for example, I can change this image. Let's go up and to the size option. Let's make it a bit bigger. We come to the other section, we increase the amount of the reflection too. Okay. And here's the glowing. And for this offset, there is also a sort of a dimension for it. Let's just show that for you guys too. And as you can see, when we increase it, this dimension shows itself more. And when we decrease it, sometimes in the projects with difference of heights and the level of their distance, it doesn't show itself that much. And like now, for example, when we increase the amount of offset, you can see this depth of that object is increasing and it shows itself more. We discussed about texture too, and in this detail section we have colors. And this is somehow amazing because you can change the color of your texture, whatever you choose for your picture, you can change them. So there are other options like sharpness and this threshold. Okay, and there is also this luminosity option here, you can change that too. And clearly in different situations and in different positions, they have various outcomes. For example, if it's on this option or on that decal, for example, how it shows itself, it is different from object to object. You can set it on different decals. For example, this leaves here. So based on the options here, you can control them and edit their material somehow, edit their options and features properly. The next part, these particles. For this section, for example, this fire, we add it here and then we select it. We go closer and as you can see, there are no specific parameters. We place the other one, put it here, and still there are no parameters. Some of these items that you place in that environment have parameters and options, and some of them don't. Let's just click on the door here, and when we click on it, there's a symbol next to the name and it shows these parameters individually. And this feature helps you to have a better control and understanding of the parameters. You just have to click on that asset and then come to this section, then you can have these parameters as individual. And while working like this would be so much easier, you just have to click on this symbol right here. That's how you can change these panels to different situations like this. Okay, and let's just delete these assets right here. Okay, we get back to the previous section and we go to the water section, and there are no specific parameters for this asset. Okay, for this part, this section is just for enabling it, but this one is the appearance of the water, and for example, as you can see, this is just pool number 1, pool number 2, and they all have different features like different color and stuff like that. Okay, like one of them is darker, one of them is just more clear, stuff like that. Other than that, there are no specific parameters. Okay, and the next part that we're going to discuss is the sound part. For example, in the nature section, we choose a certain sound and we place it here. Okay, we place it, and as you can hear, there is a sound playing. Okay, and we go to this specific panel again, and let's close this one too. And as you can see, we can turn it off and on, just like this. Okay, and now this part you can increase the volume and decrease the volume of the sound. And for this part, there is this area around the sound, as you can observe, and here we can set the distance amount like 10 centimeters or 50 centimeters. You can see that inside the screen. Now we can set it on box or sphere, and well, usually the sphere option is much better, and we put the number of distance on like 5 meters, and like you can change the amount of distance, but we just put it in just 5 meters, that's enough. So what that means, if we just get out of that 5-meter area, we are not going to be hearing that sound. And if we want to hear it, we just have to go into that sphere. When we move away, we can barely hear that sound, but when we get closer to the center of the sound, we just hear it perfectly. Okay, let's delete this one. Then we open up the library section again. Okay, then we click on this part, this door section. You have sliding doors and rotating doors. You just choose one that you like and you place it in your project. Let's just close this one and select this door right here. And the symbol of the door is completely obvious. We click on it. Okay, we get closer, then we go up. Let's just set the angle and walk slowly toward the door. Okay, let's just go up a little bit. Okay, that's enough. For here, we can change the style of the door based on what we like. You can choose whatever you want, just it's based on you. We continue with the preset door, and in this section you can clearly change the handle of your door. Okay, the next part, you can change the door's frames, and also for these options here you can change the height of the door and the width of the door. And let's go to the detail section. Okay, this part is the hinges, and right now we come a little close to the door, and as you can see, and down here we have some tools, how to open the door and stuff like that. We come here to that section and we set it on close. We come up again, and simply for this part you can turn these hinges off and on. You can place them or remove them from your project. And this part is the width and the thickness of the frames also. And when we go to the framing section, there are also different options here. You can change them, and that's how the style of your door changes. Okay, so as you can see, these parameters are extremely well detailed. And for this part, opening style, it sets it on the right hand and the left hand, as you can see. And also in this section you can set the position of opening door inward or outward. And also in this section you can change the angle of the opening door. For example, you can set it on 45 degrees, but usually it's 90 degrees. So, and for the last part is just, if it's closed, it is always closed. If it's open, it is always open. And when you set it on trigger, when you get close to it, it just automatically opens up. And let's just talk about these detail of the behaviors too. And this is trigger radius. You can set the radius of, for example, when you walk toward the door, when it's going to be open. As you can see right now, that circle is smaller. Okay, 1 meter is not enough, 2 meters is good, and you can change this one too. And for this part, you can set what's going to make the door open: the camera, the character path, and the custom path actors. Well, camera means we are moving, this camera is moving. When we get close to it, it opens up. And when we turn off the camera, as you see, when we get close to it, nothing happens. Now for this part, character path. Okay, we select a certain door and, for example, we place it in that area, like this one. Okay, here we drag this out, and let's just close this panel here. Okay, and we rotate this door by 90 degrees, like this. Let's bring it here and delete these ones too. And while we come to this path section, then we set a certain path. When a character goes through that path, the door opens up automatically, as you can see, like this. Okay, when this character is going through that path, you see the door opens up. And now I can increase or decrease this circle here around this door. Like this trigger radius is 200 centimeters, and if we just drag this door here and then we make it bigger by 100 centimeters, as you can see, before the character arrives to that door, the door opens up. And also I can turn this character path off and on. And the last one is custom path actors. This option is also a part of this section too, that we're going to discuss later. In this specific section, that means you can set a certain custom object for yourself to move it towards the door, like a certain elevator or an object, and you can also turn this custom path actors off, as you can see. Okay, and you can replace any kind of object with that box, and we set it to move only once, and then we come to this section. Okay, you can use any other object, that's it. Well, let's just delete this one too. So we get back, and that was the door section. And for the sliding door is the same, it's not that much different. It means that when you place a certain door, the structures are the same with the rotating door, and you can use the same structures, but just the direction of the movement is kind of different. Like when you get close to this door, it opens up like this, and in the rotating door there is an angle, but for this one there is this percentage you can change. That means the whole fundamental structures of it are the same. Okay, let's go to the next section. The next section that we have is the light section. Alright, we get to the inside environment and we place this certain light here. And there are some parameters here that we are going to discuss it in the next episode. For the light section, you can turn these lights off and on in this section. And just remember that when you turn this eye off and on, it does the same exact job. You see that? Okay. Okay, and in this part you can increase or decrease the intensity of the light. And also for this part, this is the attenuation of the light. As you can see, it's getting weaker or stronger, and the reflection of different objects with it. This parameter belongs to this section, attenuation. Just notice the distance between the light section and the ground and different objects. And for example, if the roof is 3 meters, set it on 3 meters, and things like that. And this section, the cone angle, is the angle of the light. As you can see, how you can increase or decrease this cone. And for the section below this is the color section. This part is the color temperature. You can make the color, how do I put it, warmer or colder, as you can see. Or you can set a color in this section and you can set the temperature like this. And for the next part is the shadow part. You can create shadows with this light. You can turn it off and on, as you can see that. And of course there's this other part, volumetric shadows. You can create those kind of shadows. So this is it, and the section below is haze. Well, as it is obvious, this section creates a haze atmosphere, something like that. And when you turn it off, you have access to these options. We're going to discuss them. And right now you can understand this volumetric shadows better. Just take a look at it and you will understand it. Okay, when we turn this on, in this part you can set the intensity of your haze. You see the difference when we change it? Okay. And the other part is the speed. You can see the difference. And the next part is tiling. See something like this, and we can turn it off. And well, I think it would be good for this urban environment which has like a cold situation inside it, like there's winter or snow or rain. That's gonna make your project realistic. And also there is this misc part. In this part, for example, you can replace this IES light in your project. For example, in Google we search IES light file. Okay. There are many websites that you can download IES lights from them. For example, we come here and we click on this, and for example, we want this kind of light. And then we click on download IES and we wait for it. When it's downloaded, we can come to this section and click on open. And then we select this one, and then as you can see, we replace it with the light in our own project. And as you can see, we can change the options for this one. And we place this next to this wall so we could observe it better. Okay. Now let's turn this haze section off, or we also can download another light. This one, for example. We come to this section again and then click on open, and we insert this light, and as you can see, it is much different. So here you can insert your IES files. And for this section, let's put it here. Okay. And for this section, dusk to down, what it means, the light automatically turns on and off by the time of the day. For example, if we come to this section and we set the time of the day on somewhere near like this hour, as you can see, the light automatically turns on. And as you can see, when it's day, it turns off. it's fully automatic, and so this option being turned on, it means that, let's go to lights properties, and here, okay, generally this option does this. And also this part is the reflection. There is something that I should mention about IES lights, is that, well, there are many of them, and there might be some in your local storage which they don't have a picture of it on themselves. So you could search IES viewer on Google, and in this website you can come to download section and set it on Windows installer package like this, and you can install this app like this. And well, there are different IES lights in different softwares like Revit and stuff like that. You can just check any of them in this software. Like you can see the different lights and their radiation, their brightness, and their options. And you can look for them so you could find the proper file. And when you chose one, you right click on it, then you click on copy file name, and then we come to this section of the software and we click on open. Then we paste the file, and as you can see, it automatically changes the file. And this was the light section. You can choose among all of them based on what you need, what your project needs, what you like. You could use any of them for your Twinmotion project. Okay, this part we are going to be discussing tool section,
which is going to be practical basically for all of your projects. Well, in this part we have a few tools. One of these tools is sections. In Twinmotion software, you have this ability that you can select a certain section in your project. As soon as we click on it, there is this section cube, and when we place it on our project, somehow we can see inside of that environment, as you can see. And in this section, you can turn it off and on, enabled. And you can set the color of your section cube in this section. So as you can see, there are different colors, but we go with the black, and we add black here too. And in this place, you can set the thickness of this section cube, like we can set it on 20 centimeters here. And we bring it down, we move it, and just like what you see, it's amazing how it is cutting through these objects, and the thickness of that section cube is 20 centimeters right now. And of course, we also can click on the scale tool and scale this section cube, as you can see, and then control our process like this. And there's also moving, as you can see. We bring it down. Also, this section is about inverting that cube. You see the outside of that cube is kind of invisible. It's like cutting through the outside of that cube. Let's bring it back, and then we move back. Well, this might be helpful for your presentations about a project, especially in Revit. That could explain a lot of things about your project and environment. And also for this section, as you can see, geometry and point cloud, you can set it on these things, and you also can set it on both as we set it. Something like this, and you can use the sections tools for this part we deleted right now. Okay, let's go for another one. Okay, the next section is reflection probes. You see, right now we have some objects like these glasses and windows, which they have reflections. And simply they are reflecting the environment around them. But when we click on this tool and when we use it, let's just put it in this place, and right now we can turn it off and on, and when we make it bigger, as you can see, the windows are reflecting that part, alright, not the image in front of them, alright. They are reflecting that sphere probe. It's a little complicated, but you know, that's how it works. For these projects like this, we have this essential need to have this reflection from the front environment, but like for example, when your projects are much bigger, in a bigger scale, which there is no environment around them, or maybe they are placed far away, we just need a simple reflection. We're gonna be using this tool like this. When we place it in this position, you can see the difference.
Okay, so, and this section is also for the brightness of the reflecting objects, as you can see. And you can update it for the newer object. It's kind of live, so that's it. Okay, we delete this one, and the other one is still the same, but you know, that is a box, a cube. Okay, the next part is called notes, and this part allows you to leave some notes in specific parts of the project. For example, we select this and then we click on the ground. As you can see, this appears, and then we click on it again. Well, first of all, when we click on this facing camera, it's kind of like a billboard. It stands right in front of the camera. You see it this way, it's kind of like a billboard. And if we turn it off, it stands in the same position, but we usually turn it on. And as you can see here, there's this line, there's this minus, and when we click on it, you see the difference. You can make it a plus or a minus. You can expand it like this. And this part you can set it on left, center, and right. You see? And of course the size of it this way, and let's bring it closer to us, and this part is of course the color section. Well, look, for example, you have a project and you want to write a description, and then you kind of need a billboard with a right color which can set your environment. So here you can just set a color for yourself. For example, we come here and we type floor as the title, and in the description we write this, like a concrete floor. Okay, and we also have this left, center, and right, the size, and facing camera. And we have this update part, this camera, this scene here. You can set it there. That means if we just change our view and we want to set this scene based on our view, you can click on this update and you can see that it changes. And we'll come to this section, we'll click on it, and as you can see, it is obvious where it is. Okay. So this was the note, and there are no specific options. So let's move on. So you can use this note in different parts of your project, and when you move backward, when you add to your distance, it fades away, and when you get closer to it, it is more obvious. And let's get back to the library section again. And the next part is the measure tool. As soon as we click on it, this arrow appears, and the first surface it touches, it is like the starting point, and whatever is at the top of this arrow is just the second and the finishing point, the starting of the arrow and the ending of the arrow. So you have to select the first point, and the second point is automatically selected for you. For example, we can click here and just do the measuring from this point. And we come to the right part of the screen, this constraint section. And as it is obvious, when we turn it off, there are no limits and constraints. And when we turn it on, that arrow appears. For example, let's select an object and we make a copy out of it. And when we place it on that arrow, as you can see, it changes the direction of that arrow because it is placed exactly on that top of the arrow. But when we turn it off, as you can see, it is still moving. But for example, if we change this number here, like 1100, as you can see, the measurement changes itself. But when we turn it on again, it is attached to the bottom of that object. So basically it is limited to the nearest surface. So by this constraint means this is a specific option. You can set it like this, or you can change the number. When you turn it off, it doesn't need any second point. And when you turn it on, it needs a second point. And text position, this is just for the text position next to the line. You can set that. And of course, the scale adjustment, and then the color. Well, you can use different options for your project like this. The next part is cyclorama. Well, in architectural projects, it might not come handy. But you know, for certain projects which are about, you know, presenting something and introducing something might be good. For example, a certain object or a certain, you know, product like watch, a bag or something which you want to introduce it. And as you can see, there are certain like tools here which you can place it in your project. For example, let's make it flat on the surface. Okay. And then, excuse me, we rotate it by 180 degrees. Something like this. And for example, you want to introduce or present a product. This could be your work environment, and you can do lighting in there and all other stuff. It's like a studio or something. And you can change the color, for example, set it on green for, you know, that green screen, and then replace it with another image, something like that. Well, there are, of course, these options here too, like grunge. And these things, you know, they are more clear for your material. But, you know, the scale of this whole environment and this tool here is set in this part. As you can see, there are different environments which you can use to introduce and present your product. Like there are different environments available for us to present our product, and our product could be anything. It could be a car, it could be a watch, it could be anything. And we mentioned it before in the home section, there was this platform for your products. For example, if I open up this template, there is this very small environment that is presenting a certain product. And you know, this could be for business terms, you know, this whole advertisement and stuff like that. Okay. And here there's this prototype design, and you can see the other details. And we come here, we select this, and then we come here, and of course we can work with these options here, like for example different resolution, high quality, medium quality, and low quality. Let's set it on this, and this one and this one. As you can see, there are different situations and modes for it. So as you can see, these are the different situations to present your product and advertise it. You see the process of changing it in a video. Or let's go back to the previous section. So these tools can be used in these type of environments and projects. And the next part is virtual product. Well, you can use this tool to create a virtual product. As you can see, there is this chroma key provided for you here, so you could use that. And of course you can change the color of that wall behind, and this wall is used to change the picture or an image behind it and replace it with something else. And you can change the color of it for different softwares. And of course this one is more like a texture. A video is like something, a TV in a mall or an airport, something like that. And there is this configuration part. You can change it and set different things inside it. So you could check these different modes and their different options, of course. And let's get back here, and you can see these different options for this. Okay, and there is this detail part, and for this texture you have this scaling here, and of course this offset left and right, and offset up and down. And this last one, the glow section, you can just change the brightness of the screen. And of course the last one is the chroma key. You just can set a color for it. For example, if you wanted to create a virtual studio or environment and use it in other softwares, you can use this. This whole virtual product is quite useful for those environments. Okay, this part is about animations. Well, this section is one of the most important and probably the most interesting parts in Twinmotion software. In Twinmotion software, you can basically animate every single object or asset or any kind of file for your project. There are two sections here. One is rotate and the other one is translators. Well, as it is obvious, in rotators you use animation which rotates, and in the translator you kind of use the animations that move your object. Well, in this specific section, as you can see, there are different types of rotations, like rotator, lifting barrier, and rotating doors, which they are obvious from their names and their pictures. With rotators, you can rotate any object in a rotational orbit. For example, we click on it and then we click in a point of a screen that we like. Like, as you can see, you have this rotatory axis in the middle of that point, and of course these arrows that show the direction of the rotational force. In the property sections, you can just change the direction of this axis and set it on X, Y, and Z. There are a few categories here. Main section is about controlling the object itself, And the next part is the animation. We could set it on different type of movements like once, ping pong, and loop. And this is the trigger. When an object or something gets close to it, it starts rotating. And up here we have three major icons. The first one is object link. What object do you want exactly to link it with this one? Like if I click on this, and as you can see, the mouse changes. And by clicking on this specific object, it starts animating like this. If I turn this play off and on, as you can see, it starts and it stops. And here in the angle section, we can change the angle of the rotation. For example, we can set it on 360 degrees. As you can see, it spins around itself. Right now, we turn this play animation off and we come to XYZ, the axis section, or this transform panel. So the coordination of our object is 0, but for this rotator, for example, it is -69 and 453. And we set these on 0. We turn it off and on again. And the thing is that when you create a link, that object is going to be labeled as the category of that animation. Now we select it individually and we set it on 0. And then we get back to this section, and with this one, we unlink that object. Now we come here, this one is 0, and we put this axis on 0, 2. Let's bring it up so we could see it. And when we link this object again, you can see that it is spinning around itself. You see, it's exactly in the middle of that object. And now if we click on this pivot option, we can change its pivots. Okay, and I can move it, and as you can see, there's this circle created here. And now when we click on it, it spins around that circle. Now with this option, we'll link that object, and with this option, we're going to unlink our object. And with this option, you can change the pivot of your movements. For example, if I click on this sphere, well, a sphere is obvious, but on the rotator, by clicking on this pivot section, we can change that pivot. This was the first section, and the next section is about the animation itself. When we set it on once, it turns around itself once. And ping pong, for example, because we set it on 360 degrees, it spins around it in one way and then turns around backward. And of course the loop is obvious, it's just looping around. And in this part you can set the speed of that animation, and of course you can set the delay here. For example, 2 seconds when it's spinning around. You see it kind of gets slow and then faster again. Let's just lower the speed so you could understand it better. Let's just increase the radius a bit. Okay. And then right click. And then we select it again. We increase the delay, and you can see it is more obvious. Like this. It kind of slows down for a moment and then moves again. So this is how you use it. Let's put it on 0. And the last section is the trigger section. When we turn it on, that means if we, for example, this part is this zone and there's this distance like 200 centimeters. And let's just say we put this on camera. And that means if our camera goes into that zone, that object starts moving. and when we get out of that zone, it stops. You see when we get close to it, and this is our camera. Let's go here in this position. Okay, we select it again and we increase that zone, and there it is. You see, this is our zone. We can increase it or decrease it. And this part, as I explained it, you can set that if different objects or assets got close to it, that object moves around. You know, it starts its own animation. So this was rotator animation. There is this point that I have to mention right now. This is used in all of these sections. You see, from this sphere, we hold shift and we make a copy out of it, or maybe 3 copies out of it. Okay, and let's move this to this side. And okay, and for the next sphere here, or maybe in another place, for example here. Well, you guys can label these spheres inside of one sphere and put them together by dragging them inside to each other, like what you see right now. That means if I want to move this sphere, this one moves too, because it's part of that somehow category. Like this, we put it here, and this one moves individually. That one brings it too. Let's put them in this pack too. Okay, you see this one moves individually and this one moves with this one, but if we move this one, all 3 will move together. And right now, if we unlink our pivot here and we select this and we put these coordinates on 0, 0, and 50 centimeters, let's bring it up, and then we click on rotator here, and let's put it on 0, 2. And if I link this one to that, all of these 3 spheres will be animated together. They will move together. Alright, right now we're done with this, and well, our animation is on the loop, and let's turn this off, and as you can see, it is moving. So that's how you can label these assets and, for example, objects inside of one group, and that's how we can animate them all together. Let's delete these here, and let's get back here to rotating door. This one is clear from the picture and the name, and you can create an animated door by clicking on this environment. This is kind of the same with the preset doors. The difference is just this: when you're working with other software, you can animate some doors while you don't want to use, for example, the preset doors from Twinmotion. So this is how this tool works. Well, there is this preset door here provided for us. I can select this rotator, and by clicking on this unlink section, we can get it out of this process of rotating, or we can come here and click on this section, and then by right clicking and then clicking on this replace, we can replace it with another object. Okay, so for example, we go to object section, and here in the primitive section, for example, we're looking for maybe a certain box, and then we drag it to this panel, and by clicking on the start and replacement, as you can see, it is replaced now. And as you can see, there is this panel which you can replace. So let's check this box that we have selected. And as you can see, it is rotating around that angle, around that circle. Let's bring it a little closer. So that's it. And the rest of the options are explained before. So these are the angles, the axes, and this is of course the trigger section, and this animation modes, speed and delay, and other options. So this was the tool section and rotating doors, and obviously their animations. And we're gonna discuss children roundabout for the next part. Well, in this children roundabout section, if you select this, there is this prepared sample provided for you guys, and everything is quite ready. And then you can make an object move around this object. As you can see, the options are the same and they're not different with the previous ones. So the only different thing is that you can come here and then right click on this and then click on replace object and then set an object here. So right now, to be specific, I can replace any type of object here. And let's go to this part, or let's drag this one, or maybe right click on it and then do the replacing process. And as you can see, this section of transforming is on, and there it is. Now we click on it, and as you can see, this is how it starts its animation. You see, there it is. So let's get back to pivot section, or maybe this part. Okay, we go to main section, and then we select this. I can make this radius smaller, so that's how it is. So these are basically repeated concepts, and we don't have anything new. We just have to put them into practice, and there is this lifting barrier. So as it is clear, the animation of this object is kind of like those gates. So the options are almost the same, but this is just the direction of the rotation process is a bit different. You can put it on X and Y and Z, but beside that, everything is the same. Just the direction of that rotation is different. And as you can see, the objects that are still, they don't have any animation. They are inside of somehow a group, a folder, which we'll discuss them later. So you guys, by creating a new container, you can basically create somehow a new folder. So I can change this one to test and then put some objects inside it. So it is clear that when we move this folder, everything within this folder is going to be moved. It was just a very interesting point that I had to mention. But the next section here is the translators, which you have certain moving process here. Let's delete all of these. Okay, and let's go here.
So in here, the first part that we are going to discuss, it's kind of our own tool for moving. And as we click on a ground, a panel opens up, and as you can see, we kind of have same panel for the rotational movement. And in this part, of course, you can set the direction of movement. For example, in this part, we create a new scene, and also we open up our Revit software. Then we open up this certain sample file, and then we go to the 3D section, and then here we right click on it, we duplicate it, and let's just change the name to Revit to Twinmotion. Okay, and let's select these 3 and VH again, VH, and let's set it like this. We save this project up until here, and then we come to this section, View Twinmotion, and from this section we click on Open in Twinmotion, and then we wait so this file transfers to Twinmotion software. So here it asks us, do you want to add it to the previous project or you want to create a new project? We create a new project, and then we click on OK. So this is our project, and let's close this base. Okay, and let's get into the interior. Let's delete this one too, and this one. Okay, now let's delete this one too. Okay, so let's just turn this scene off and on so we could have our hidden objects back, and let's show them again. Alright, we have these furnitures provided here for us, and we come to this tool section, and then we come to animators and translators, and okay, so we place this translator here, and then we click on it, then we come to these property panels, and then make it like this. As you can see, we have a few furnitures here, which by holding control we can select them. Now I can come to this part and select these two together. Okay, and excuse me, just wait a second. Okay, this chair and this one, so I can drag this one to this folder so they are labeled as the same. Okay, so in here we go down to the lower parts and we select our translator, and right now by using this object link option we can move these objects, and we click on that chair too. So as you saw, we did this process to put these objects in one folder, and then we use this to have a better control on them. Okay, and now this part you can set the distance. For example, I can set this number on -2 meters. You see, and of course I can change the direction of it, or this direction too, or I can set it on 2 meters, and there it is. And of course this part we can set it to animate once or set it on ping pong. We select once, and let's check this part and enable trigger, so when we get near to it they start moving. So right now let's go to pivot section. So we set this pivot on 200 centimeters. Okay, so it goes up. So as you can see, they go up and they move to that position. And let's put it on -200 centimeters. It means 0. And then we click on play, and as you can see, that's how we can use them to put them in different positions.
Okay, and let's just check the coordinates of where they stand. We come to this section. For example, let's put them on 120 centimeters, and this one 102 centimeters too. Okay, let's select this one too, and then let's turn this off and on. Okay, this must be a little bit higher, and then play. So this is it. And there are different modes, as you can see, ping pong and loop, and here we set the speed. And this one is of course the delay. So that's how we can add these animations. Okay, in this part we are going to be using this translator tool more professionally. So for example, you have this environment that you want to move these furnitures. Okay, we select this and we click on this surface. So as you know, by moving this center circle, you can place it on different surfaces. So when you come to this X, Y, Z section, you can see how these coordinates change into different numbers. So we place this here, and we come to this panel, and let's make this window smaller. Okay, and we come to this rotation part and we put it on 180 degrees, this one too. So, and for the distance we put it on 100 centimeters for now, of course. And here minus 180 degrees. Okay, let's bring this up, and this one 0, and again 180. Alright, and after this we click on this link section, and then we click on this again. So we select this pivot section, and let's change this number to 300, and this one again 302, and then we click on this, and from this section we put it on 0. We select it again, and 300 again. Let's put it for this number. Sometimes you need to change the object itself, of course. So let's look for our object. This must come up. Okay, and this was this translator part and the furnitures, and it's okay for right now. So look, we should go back to pivot section again. Right, and we select this one, minus 55. Okay, and again this part and the pivot. So this was in a diagonal angle, and we couldn't have our proper position. And let's just consider this vertical completely. Okay, we click on this again. So this one 0, and the length of this is 3 meters this way. And let's play it, put it on loop. This one 0 again. Okay, we bring it up a little. Let's select this one, and I think it must be minus 55. Okay, and this is the angle of it. Of course, this must not rotate, so we put it on 0. Again, we put it on 180 and this one minus 180 degrees. Alright, we right click on it, so we're looking for its position. Okay, where is it exactly? Oh, this is down here. Let's put it on 0. Minus 55, we put it again. And then we click on it, and so there it is. Alright. For example, for the other objects, I can come to this section again. And then we click on it, we turn this off. And from this section, we choose its translator. And for this one, we put it on 180 degrees. For the other one too, the same. We put this on 0. And okay. So the distance of this one is 3 meters, and we put the same exact number for this translator too. Okay, and for these furnitures, we can place them in that folder, or I can do something else. For example, choose these ones. So we select them all like this. And right now, by clicking and dragging them into the down part of this panel, like this lower part of this panel, we put them into this translator folder. So as you can see, everything is moving with the translator. Okay, and for this part, let's put this on 3 meters. Yeah, let's consider it like that. And let's go back to this previous section from here. This one 300 centimeters too. You see, like this. And for example, we can put a 10-second delay on this, so we could see that like when this comes down, and after 10 seconds these other objects come down. Okay, and let's select it for these ones too. And we put it on once. And okay, let's play these two together. So let's play it. Okay, right now let's turn it off. So, and this one is okay. So by using this animation section, you can provide such a scene in your projects. Okay, and of course this whole direction is based on your own projects. It's not always about moving vertically. Of course you can animate them in every direction possible. So right now we are going to discuss the next part, which is ambience or the environment. Okay, when you complete a certain scene, we can come to this ambience section, this scene graph part, and then click on this icon here. So right now we have properties categorized and provided as individual, and right now it is simpler to check it. So as you can see, we have these different categories here. Like this FX section is about these effects that you can add to your scene. And in the environment section, we have global lighting, weather, and location, and HDRI environments, and different parts. And in the global lighting section, it is about the general lighting of the environment, like you can control the time of the day. So as you can see, by moving this tape, you can change the hour, or you just can type it in here, like the exact time of the clock. Okay, or maybe it can be night, or of course early in the morning. And the next part is the exposure, which is the amount of light in the scene. So as you can see, when we lower it, the amount of light kind of fades away, and we increase it, it's glowing. Alright, like 0 and 1. Let's put it on 0. So you can change it in here, and there's this detail section. And this detail section is related to the exposure. And when we turn this off, you can control the amount of light in the scene manually. But if you just turn it on, it combines the exposure and time of the day together. Let's just put it on 0. And in this part, you control the intensity of the sunlight. So for example, we can increase this, but lower the amount of sunlight here. So this part is for controlling the sunlight. And of course, as it is obvious, this part is the size of the sun. You can make it bigger, like you can see. And the next part is the sun reflection, which you can see the impact of it in places like here. For example, their impact on objects that have reflection. And of course, this part is about the intensity of the moon. If we change the time of the day, I think it's going to be clear. Okay, as you can see, the amount of moonlight and how it is changing right now. And this part is of course the star's intensity, and this is relevant to the light of stars. Now let's just lower the moonlight so we could see the stars better. You see, that's how it works. And this lower part is the ambient part. We change it to daytime, and we go inside of the house. And this is somehow the environment light, as you can see. To be simple, these environment lights are called indirect lights. So for example, the sunlight comes through these windows, and you know, the reflection of these lights somehow is affecting these objects too, and you can control that light. So this is called the ambient light. And this section is the white balance. So here you somehow can control the color of the light, and 6500 is the normal and standard number for the sunlight. So as you can see, you can make these colors warmer or colder. So as you can see, we are changing these numbers so you could have somehow a more professional and detailed scene. So that's how you can change the color of the environment. Okay, and this was the global lighting section. So this part is about weather section. So in this section, by using the first sliding rule, you can determine your weather condition. For example, whether it's rainy or sunny or cloudy, something like that. But you know, the second one is about the seasons. Somehow you can set it on different seasons. You see, when we place it right here, the weather is snowy. Okay, so let's get inside of the house, and as you can see, the software somehow detects the places that, you know, whether it's gonna be rain on them or it's gonna be snow on them, as you can see that.
You see there's snow on the places that there are no objects above it, and this is extraordinary. Okay, so you can see that these two different options and their different features. Alright, I think this is gonna be good. Okay, so in the detail section, as you can see, we can, you know, determine the amount of fog inside of our environment. So let's change position. Alright, so and the option below here is just the wind speed, which you can you know, control the amount of speed and the wind. And of course this part is about the direction of the wind. And of course in the vegetation growth, as you can see, you can control the growing process of trees and vegetations. Let's put the camera in here. Let's go up and we turn around, and you can see that like these trees are getting bigger and smaller. You know, it's the growth of vegetation. And of course it's the weather effects. You can turn it off and on, and like we turn it on. So this was the weather section. The section below is the location section. So with the options provided for us in this section, you can set the location of your, for example, your scene or your house in the project. For example, in this section we can set the direction of the north, as you can see. Or in the detail section, you can, you know, place your environment inside of a real location. Like in this map, we put it here. You see? Okay, let's bring it up a little, like this. Maybe here, or a little bit higher in the location. So here. You can place your location basically everywhere, and in this section you can search your area. Okay. And the next part is of course the HDRI environment. So this section is available when you have used an HDRI image. That means when we come to HDRI environment and to this section, and which of course we can download one of these HDRIs and then use it. So the amount of these environments are a lot, but we can use one of the presets here. Okay, we drag it here, and as you can see, this sun section is not working. We have to work with these options. And of course we close that one and we come to the section of HDRI environments, and this stands for high dynamic range image. Okay, when we open it up, we can turn this off and on, and as you can see, when we turn it off, the time of the day section is available now. Okay, we turn it on so we can have the image here. So this section, you can set it on sky dome or background HDRI. So you can somehow set the sky like in a dome environment, and you also can set the image of the HDRI itself for the background. And in this section you can determine the intensity of the light of the environment itself. And of course in this section you can change the direction of the sky. And below here we have another detail section. So in the first part you can turn off and on the effects of the light
in the HDRI scene. And in this part, you can log the sun to the HDRI scene. For example, this one is okay. Let's go for the other part, and this is okay too. So we rotate this, and as you can see, the sun is moving with it too. And when we turn it off, like you see the difference between their rotations. Just look at the shadows created in this part, how they are different when we turn it on and off. Okay, so the sun provided in the Twinmotion software is logged to the sun which exists in this HDRI. Okay, and this section is of course the height of the fog effects. Do we want to see the effects or not? Like, we can set it in this part. You see, when we go to the previous section and we change it, we can see the difference when we turn it off and on. Okay, let's get back up here, and we decrease the amount of fog here. So let's close all these panels, and we come to this section, which is the horizon section. Alright, we mentioned that this section is about the horizon. This part is also using the HDRIs. We can change the background manually here. You see there are different backgrounds. Okay. I can rotate that background here, or I can just say, like, we don't need any background here. So based on your own project, you can select your proper background. You could do that if your project needs a professional background, or if you don't need it, just turn it off. And this part is the ocean part. Well, in this part you can create somehow a surface full of water like a sea or ocean for your project. For example, let's open up Revit again. When it's done, we come to the view section, and in this section, and then we click on open in Twinmotion. Okay, we wait for this window and we click on open a new project. Alright, we just have to wait a few seconds. Okay, so this is the scene that we want to work on, and let's delete these things. Okay, let's come here to this part. Okay, and let's bring this up again. Alright. Okay, in this section we come to the ocean part. So as soon as we turn this on, the whole environment is filled with water. Now from this part we can reduce the amount of height. Like, for example, right now we have an island. So that's how we can create a surface like a sea or an ocean in this environment. And of course, in this part we can control the type of water that we use. For example, do we want to use ocean or maybe sea or stuff like that? So there are different versions and we can use them for our project. So let's stay in this environment. Okay. And like we can use this wind speed section and wind direction to make it more professional. You see, when you change it, the waves change. Alright. Let's get back to the previous section, which is the camera. This camera section is the camera that you're observing right now, like you see. So here we can change the field of view. You see the angle of this camera. And I should mention that the preset is 90. And of course, in this section, we can control the depth of field. We can turn it off and on and work with the options here. Of course, we can set this distance by picking on a specific object. For example, we click on this object and it considers the distance with this object. And of course, by measuring this object, we can increase it or decrease it. Or let's just change our view and probably let's select this floor here. You see, when we click on them, this number here changes. You see this is 400 and 400 again, so you can select them. And this part is the aperture section, which you can control that. For example, this is a very good sample for this. Let's just zoom a little so you could see it better. So this is the depth of our field when we have some objects here, and the focus is on this part and the rest of it is out of focus. So this is the view of it, as you can see. So as you can see, this flower here is focused and it is clear, but the background is dim and not clear. And as we increase the depth of field, you can see the range of our camera is more. And for the aperture section, so by controlling the aperture, you are making that lens bigger or even smaller. And as you can see, for this part, the aperture is 2.8 and the other one is 5.6. And for example, we put it on 200 here and 100 and of course 50, and we can change these numbers for aperture and make it clear or not. So that's how the aperture works. So in order to see that better, we come here to this section and then we click on these sections and we put some object inside of that panel, and then we click on them and then we click on the scatter tool here, then we have them. Alright, let's get out of this panel by clicking on the right click. Okay, then we get back to the ambience section, and when we change the amount of aperture, and as you can see, the clarity of these trees are more. You see 1.2, 2.8, 6, then 10, 2.8 again. So right now we understand the concept of aperture for this project. So right now you can understand what's it like to make the lens smaller or bigger. So this part shows us the different apertures, like for example 1.4, like 2.8 and other numbers. And here it is demonstrating the size of the camera lens here, as you can see, right? Like these are very good examples provided for us to understand this concept. And this last part here, the bokeh shape, like when we set this number on 1 and we can see that there is this blur, we can change the shape of these blurs in this section. So this bokeh part, let's just go to a better angle so we could see it better. All right, excuse me, just wait a second. All right, we come here and set this number on 10. All right, and for this part, for example, we can control the shape of this blurred object. Okay, for now we disable this section. Our next section is the camera effects. So we have this section here that we can determine the frames around our project. Let's go up and here. For example, by controlling this slide, we can make our frames a little darker, like what you see right now. And the next section is the lens flare, which by this you can create some, I don't know, rays for your lens or your environment. And the other section here is the align camera. If we click on any type of object, and then our camera will be in the direction of that object. So this was the align camera section, and this part below, parallelism. As it is obvious, it causes the parallelism in your camera view. So as you can see, this option is not that much practical, so we get out of this panel. Okay, and the other section here near clipping, you can control the amount of distance between the elements and your camera. Alright, let's just change the angle of the camera, and for example we come here. Alright, so this is how we can control these objects. Alright, just take a look at it. So this option provides such a condition for your project. Alright, our next section here is the rendering part. Let's get back to the previous section and we select the scatter. Let's just disable this section for a second. Alright, and let's select these objects and then select them all, and then we will delete them by this eraser option. Alright, we come here, and by using this tool, because there's a building around it, we clean them up. So for now, let's just disable this part and we get back to the ambience section. Or let's just use this test project that we have here. Okay, so we just have to wait a few seconds, and in this rendering section there is two parts. The first one is real time. So inside of this section, when you're walking inside of the project, it's like you're walking inside of a real project. Let's just delete these ones that we have created before. But if we click on this path tracer section,
The software will do the processing by the technology of path tracing. And if you notice this, we have this icon up here, which by clicking on it, we can turn it off and on. So by clicking on this, it gives you a very good quality. And of course, I should mention that the graphic cards of RTX are the best ones for these types of softwares. Just take a look how crazy the quality is, and as soon as you move, the software starts its processing again. And there's this part here, we can click on it and set the quality of it. For example, set it on low. And as you can see, when we set it on low, the process is fast. We set it on medium, the process takes more time. And of course, when we set it on high, the process is going to take more time. And when we set it on low, the process is on 8 pixels. And if we set it on medium, it's going to be 64, and high is 1024. And for the setting of this path tracing, we can come to this section, preference, and of course here in the path tracing section. And of course, if you add more than one graphics, you can use them in this section. For example, this part is for the low quality. Here the sample per pixels is 8 and bounces settings is 6. And this means if the light is coming, for example, through this window and it hits the first object and the second object and the third until the 6th object. And of course we can change these numbers like this. And the medium, so here the samples per pixels are 64, and of course the number of bounces is 8, and for the last one is 1024 samples per pixels, and for the bounce part is 12. So that's how you can change these settings, and you can change these numbers. Or we can also come to this part. For example, when we selected the low, instead of 8, we can, for example, set it on 12. We can change them here too. For example, 32 for this one. But you see the bounces cannot be changed in this part. So control 1 is low, control 2 is medium, and control 3 is the high. And these are the shortcut keys for this section. And of course, when you press the R key, you see it goes to the path tracing mode. And now we turn on this path tracing section, and then we go to the details. We have to work with the options now. And you can change these options, of course. For example, in this medium part, we can turn these samples to 128 or 200 something, or we can change that, right? We can set it on different numbers. So that's how you can change these numbers and set it on different qualities. And this section is the max bounces. This is the number of bouncing rays when a ray comes through a window and it hits the object and then it reflects. It's the number of that. For example, when we put it on 1, it's not going to be an interesting scene, but when we put it on 12, it has much more better quality. For example, 16 is this. And of course, we can compare these ones. For example, we consider it on 1, and we take a photo of it. So this part, and we go click on new. Let's take a picture from this scene. Then we open up the Photoshop software. We open the Photoshop,
and then we take a copy out of this photo and we send it to Photoshop like this. Control V, we paste it, and again we set this number on 4. Right, and then we take another photo from this scene, then we take another copy out of it, then we'll come to the Photoshop environment. Alright, here again. So you can see the difference between these two pictures and their lighting. Alright, so let's get back to the previous section. And then we set this number on 12. We wait. Then we take another photo out of this thing. Alright, we copy this photo too, and then we paste it inside of Photoshop. For now, let's put this photo above them. Alright, take a look at this. And right now you can see the differences between the reflections. We turn this one off and you can compare these two photos. So when you look at the difference between the reflection of the last one, you can understand that. So you can compare them, for example, in the Photoshop and understand this numbers. And for example, when we put it on high like this, the samples per pixels are more, and definitely we're gonna have a very high quality photo. And this section is of course emissive materials, like does it support the materials that emit light or not. For example, we turn this off and we go to the object sections, and in this section we place a certain sphere right on the table. And let's make this sphere smaller. Sorry. And then we go to the materials section, neons. We place this neon light on this object like this. And then we go to the path tracing part. So when we turn this on, the light of this object will be effective on the materials and objects around it. But when we turn it off, as you can see, there are no impacts on them. Okay, so you can see the impact of it. And this part, the denoiser part, well, it is somehow removing these screen noises here like this. When we turn it off, we are removing these noises. Okay, and of course this section is aliasing filter, which, let me explain it to you. When we reduce the amount of it, just the scene somehow becomes sharper and realistic, and when we increase the amount of it, as you can see, the objects and the scene becomes a lot smoother and it's like a little bit blurred. So let's take a photo from this scene. Alright, like this. Okay, then we open Photoshop again, and then in the Photoshop section we paste the photo that we have copied, and now we set this number on 1. So we wait for the photo to process, and then we take another photo. Then we copy this photo, and then again in the Photoshop we paste it.
So you see, when we look at the first photo, it's blurred and it's smooth, but when you take a look at the second photo, it's much sharper. So by using this option, you can determine the amount of sharpness of your objects. And the section of fireflies is related to the artificial lights, like here. So what this option does, it can reduce the amount of artificial lights, for example these lamps here, or just keep their lights. For example, we place a certain lamp here, then we go to the ambience section, and as you can see, when we reduce it, this happens. So we can see their impacts on other objects, or just the impact of the light itself, like the amount of light for itself, which when we reduce it, it's going to be artificial and unrealistic. So we put it on the preset, which is the maximum amount. Okay, so this was the path tracing section, which is an amazing feature of it. We put it on real time again. And the last part is the FX section. So this section is called color grading. So the first part, you can change the contrast of the colors, of course. Like we increase it and then we decrease it, like this. And of course, in this section, you can control the saturation of the colors, like this. Or of course, you can use one of the presets provided for you here, like you see different effects. Okay. Of course, the amount of these presets are a lot, and based on what you like in your project, you can use them, like this one, or probably this one. Okay. And of course, if you were not eager to choose one of these presets here, you can get back up here and then click on this none section. And of course, in the next section, we have these filters here, which you can use to demonstrate your architectural projects, your artistic projects, and stuff like that. As an example, this hidden line is a very interesting filter. You see these different filters, which we can use them. So we put this one on none too, and so for this part, you can have your project as somehow as a replica. Like here, we can, for example, set a color for our project and then have our project based on that. And of course, in the detail section, for example, here we can control the amount of transparency, and of course the reflections here, and then the bumps. Just take a look at this part here. And of course, for example, which we can turn this option for the glasses off, so the glasses maintain their original material. Or else we can set it on vegetations too, the original material, or water. Okay, let's get back and take a look at it. Or items or characters, it depends if we have them in our project or not. But for example, this landscape. So we can apply these things for your project and then have a replica rendering from your project. And of course, if you're not eager to do so, you can just turn this off so you could have that preset situation back. So this was the discussion For the ambience, you have 4 parts: environment, camera, rendering, and FX. And of course, these features will make a huge impact on your projects. Later on, we are going to be discussing this part and their effects. But the difference is that when we change these options, it's going to be applied only for one photo, for one scene. But when you go to these settings, let's just quit media mode. Alright, so when you use these features on ambience, it's gonna be applied on all the objects and surroundings around your project. So we'll discuss a few things in the media section.